You have to give No Guns Life props. It's definitely one of the most unique series that you can watch for the fall 2019 anime season. This show just seemingly is getting better week by week, and I especially love this episode with its mixture of serious and kind of surprising twists. I do have to give a lot of props though to just the direction they took with these girls, because I really wasn't expecting it, even though kind of in hindsight looking back, it kind of makes total sense. But just the idea that we have Tetsuo who hijacks Juzo's body and, he's basically going after kids. He wants to make sure that the kids are safe. That's his entire reason. You see two girls running for their life, and you see a horror slasher looking villain. The obvious conclusion you're going to come to is they're in the right and he's in the wrong. And to quickly learn that this man was just hunting down people who are causing kids incredible harm and danger, and that ultimately bit him and Juzo in the ass, was something I wasn't expecting. And I'm always appreciative when a series can pull something that it's kind of clear what it was building up to in hindsight, but in the moment, you completely disregard all the hints and foreshadowing that it was laying out. But I will say, even though I got surprised there, I also was sort of surprised, but also not surprised that, when he came to, he still was protecting these girls, because it's an ideal that could easily be something not a lot of people like, but I do appreciate a kid who basically escaped with his life from a facility that experimented upon him, and he didn't even consider the lives of those around him, but now after he has found his freedom, he feels very guilty, as if he didn't think of anyone other than himself. So now, anytime he sees children in danger, he immediately wants to help them, even if it means having to hijack bodies of people that did save him. It is something that is compelling and doesn't feel like just a trope or cliche like it would in a lot of author or studio's hands. It actually does feel like something that's compelling and you actually want to root for, because Tetsuo's a pretty tragic character. This show, it's funny, it has its really great humorous and just comedic moments overall, but it does have a lot of serious and depressing subject matter, especially seen by the experimentation, the augmentation that goes on to people, both willingly and unwillingly. It's mentioned in this episode, Juzo doesn't even know how his head got the way it did. Imagining that, but just to people who didn't even want the augmentations, or, they got the augmentations and it didn't turn out as well as someone like our gunhead looking character. I mean, even though that would be a curse in a lot of ways, at the very least, he does have his own will and isn't hunted as an illegal or something like that. I just really like the idea of this world and its story, and just the augmentation and how much twisted and corrupt stories that you can really explore, especially with seemingly a legal enterprise, but clearly doing some pretty shady things, and then you got little mafia groups kind of roaming the streets. It's a very dirty world. It's something that you wouldn't want to be a part of, which I mentioned, I believe it was in my first impressions for episode 1. I just really enjoy how this world feels like something you don't want to be a part of, because even though there's some cool augmentations and just, body enhancements, this looks like a terrifying and disgusting world, and that's kind of why it's so gripping, and I think it really helps sell that classic 80s to 90s, maybe even early 2000s feel, because Madhouse is really bringing their A-game in terms of its production and making it feel like something that would have been pulled from their past catalog, but actually is coming out in 2019, and, should it actually excel, it could be one of the series that people highly recommend from the studio's backlog. It's just something that has such great animation, even though it doesn't move a whole lot when we're just looking at some robot-looking characters. When it really gets into the intense moments, or even some of the subtle body language, it really gets you in the moment here, and I just love how comedic this show can be. There's some spots in this episode, especially in the first half, that just took me by surprise, especially seen by I just enjoy the idea that you have a gun that just constantly smokes cigarettes, and they do as much as they can where they'll frame a shot of him either lighting up a smoke or taking a drag, and they'll try to frame it in either the most badass or just goofy way, and it always gets a chuckle at me. It just hasn't grown old over 3 episodes, and I doubt it will by the time we reach episode 12. But the moment that was the best part of this episode had to be the shakedown, where we get a couple of people coming in saying, hey, you're gonna do this for me, and Juzo's like, no, not gonna do this, but do you want a cup of shitty coffee? That whole headbutt sequence was incredible. It was badass, as if, it was kind of like, who's gonna be, the top dog in this situation? And I love how they're setting it up to be so serious, and then we see our main character just sip a coffee as he's staring down. No one knows where the hell his eyes are because it's a gun barrel and different chambers. It's just this man has balls of steel. Literally, he's all mechanical, but I actually think his balls are made of steel, because I don't think many characters would not even just stand their ground in that situation, but have the nerve to drink coffee as someone's trying to intimidate him, and he just doesn't even flinch. And if he does, thank God he has a gun for a face because he can't show those emotions. It's just really great. Granted, he can show his emotions because we do get moments where he has that kind of like Full Metal Alchemist, like Al kind of going embarrassed and chibi almost like, but for the most part, like you can't tell any of his emotions besides that kind of embarrassed and flustered, which is pretty spectacular. I just feel like the more these characters interact and the more we start learning about them and their ideas and what they fight for, it just, the more compelling the story becomes. Like we get Mary, who is, someone who's very troll-like, someone who likes to push people's buttons, but clearly cares for people that are close to her. But she is an absolute troll and is okay with being flirtatious but not overly sexual. Then you get someone like Tetsuro, who has a guilty conscience, wants to help kids, and will even take over the person's body who actually saved him. But for our main character, our lead character Juzo, he probably has my favorite personality. He's someone with clearly a good heart. I mean, he's willing to take care of this kid until he can take care of himself, but why would he help random people? Like, he kind of got roped into this situation, but once he's roped into it, he's not going to abandon him. But why would he willingly rope himself into other people's basically circumstances without any sort of pay? It's not like he's like some money-hungry, gunhead-looking character. Like, he's not that wealthy in this time period, right? He doesn't have a lot going on for him. He has to drink the shitty coffee, and his smokes are probably pretty damn expensive as if. Like, he would need something really to compel him to work with this kid in order to save other kids, and basically his motive now is being controlled and probably not wanting it to happen again, because the kid has ridiculous abilities, as seen by him just opening up his mouth, doing some sonic blasts, and either taking over his ally or even Spider-Girls, where it's just like, holy shit, you kind of want to get this kid on your good side, so he doesn't completely run rampant. Like, it just feels as if this series has a clear direction and objective for what it's trying to tell. It wants you to have an absolute blast. It wants you to be laughing at its absurdity, its jokes, and even just some of the ways that it tries to be serious and will pass off cheesy 90s lines that is just spectacular. But then, it'll focus on the pretty dramatic and twisted side of a civilization that basically is getting by, probably fearing either their own government, underground mafia and crime units, and maybe just being ignorant to everything because they have some cool technology. It's pretty twisted in this world, but that's why it's so interesting, because it doesn't almost feel like there's a mask. It kind of is like peeling away the cracks, the scrapes, and just showing us that this world, it's not great, and that's why scummy people get to rise up and be who they are without anyone really pushing back against them. And if it wasn't for someone like Tetsuro, I doubt Juzo would ever maybe push the boundaries and try to fight back against a system that's clearly corrupt. And like I mentioned at the start of this video, I definitely think the show has been getting progressively better with each passing episode. Episode 1 had me laughing and having an absolute joy, but now with episode 2 and now clearly with episode 3, like, there's a compelling story, there's compelling narratives for its central characters, and it definitely feels like it's going to be one of those slow burns where each episode is entertaining for just simple moments where a guy will drink coffee in the face of someone trying to intimidate him, or you'll get some compelling action. But the story and what it's trying to explore is clearly a slower burn, which is what I think a series like this needs. Something that over time you learn more about its world, its main objective, and where it truly wants to go by the end of its story. But the thing that really holds it together is just the interactions between currently our central trio and wherever that cast will evolve in the future. Like, we get the cliffhanger of this episode, clearly trying to protect these girls even though they're trying to kill you, they're trying to kill other kids, and just, there's some weird corruption going on, but maybe they can be saved, or maybe they won't be able to be saved. Like, this has a lot of directions, has a lot of ways to make it compelling, and not feel like it's ever jumping the shark, because this is one of those shows that I don't think is going to be massively popular this season. Like, it's going to have a good fan base, the people who clearly have been watching it have been enjoying it, but I don't think this is going to be like the biggest show of the season. But I think if it continues to excel as what we've seen with the past 3 episodes, by the time this first core wraps up, maybe a few months later, a year later, this is going to be one of those shows that a lot of people are going to be talking about. They're going to be recommending when looking back at 2019, being like, yeah, these were all great shows, but what about No Guns Life? And people will be like, No Guns Life? I thought that was just, just a kind of, you brush it aside. No, you watch No Guns Life because it's really cool, it's funny, it's action-packed, and it has a really compelling world and story that it's trying to tell. Like, that's my gut feeling with this. But then again, maybe it'll blow up within the season that it's airing, but I definitely feel sooner rather than later, a lot of people are going to be jumping on the hype train that this series is basically delivering, because as of right now, I'm just excited for more. It's just something that really perks me up. Either, I didn't have a great day, or just I'm tired. I watch an episode of No Guns Life and I'm like, God damn it, these characters, this world, it is fun. And I just want to have fun, and I'm glad it's not just a fun show, but it actually has really interesting writing, especially for its world. It just feels like No Guns Life knows what it's doing, and I have no reason to doubt it at this point in time. And that cliffhanger, I need to see episode 4. But as always, what did everyone think? Either for source material readers or anime originals like myself, where do you think episode 4 is going to go next week? Let me know down in the comment section below. And if you did enjoy this video, be sure to drop a like and also hit that subscribe button if you have any news. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.